Remember when Vancouver was seen as a goalie graveyard, where goalies would come and die? Okay, no, that's dramatic. We're not gonna say that about anybody. Yeah, that was kind of inappropriate, sorry. But, I don't remember when the Canucks were a goalie graveyard because I got into this team in 2010-2011, when Roberto Luongo was here and in his prime. Prime? I don't know, maybe, like, towards the second half of his prime, you could say. Corey Schneider was coming up in here after Luongo got traded, after Schneider got traded. You had Miller, you had Lack, you had all these other guys, you had eventually Markstrom and Demko, and I've been kind of used to seeing goalies being good for my favorite hockey team. However, when it comes to both goalies being quote-unquote good, there have been a few goalie controversies the past few years that have stuck out to many Canucks fans, myself included. As we had talked about yesterday in the post-game video as the Canucks defeated the Golden Knights, we seem to be starting up another one of these discussions night in and night out. This is Luongo Schneider 2.0. This is Lack Miller 2.0. This is Markstrom Demko 2.0. Today we're talking about the Vancouver Canucks' supposed starter, THATCHER DEMKO, as well as the team's de facto backup, Spencer Martin, and how the latter has absolutely come alive this season to the point that he's been getting some pretty tough assignments, and he's been showing off well in those games. Against the Colorado Avalanche a few days ago, Spencer Martin started, and Spencer Martin won. Against the Golden Knights yesterday, Spencer Martin started, and Spencer Martin won. You take a look at Spencer Martin and his game log right here, and if you just go by save percentage, it kind of tells the entire story here. 9.63 against Vegas, 9.17 against Colorado. He won against the Sabres, but he had an 8.75. The Leafs' loss was a 9.12 save percentage performance, a 9.02 against the Senators, and then if you go back to Pittsburgh in October, that was a 9.71 game. So Spencer Martin has been pretty clutch this season. He's got a 9.07 save percentage in total in 8 games started. Meanwhile, for THATCHER DEMKO, this was being talked about in the panel yesterday as well. You take a look at his save percentages, and he's only really had, in the words of Kelly Hrudey, one good game. The 4-1 win against LA, where he had a 9.74 save percentage on November 18th. Every other game, he has had an 8.75, an 8.28, a 900, an 8.89. He actually had a pretty good save percentage in the Carolina game, where they lost 3-2 and he had a 9.23. But aside from that, every other game by THATCHER DEMKO has been below a 9.04 save percentage. That's not great. He's had an 8.83 on the season, he started 13 games, and Hrudey talked about this on the panel yesterday in the intermission, I believe, that Demko really has not shown any signs of rebounding and getting his foot back out there in the proper way, because we know goalies, they can go through tough times. They're allowed to do that. THATCHER DEMKO is allowed to be average. It's just when you have a team that is so poorly defensively in front of him, like the Vancouver Canucks can be sometimes, it makes for a very terrible combination on the score sheet with the stats and with the save percentages, etc. The difference with Spencer Martin is that he has actually been very good, and he has been stepping up to the task, making the big saves when he needs to, and making saves that he probably doesn't need to be making either. Against Vegas yesterday, the 5-1 win, the Golden Knights had 2 prime grade A scoring opportunities in the first moments of the game. Mark Stone and the other guy, was it William Karlsson? I forgot. 2 point-blank opportunities right in front that the Canucks D ended up giving to the Vegas Golden Knights on a silver platter, or maybe even a golden platter, you could say. Spencer Martin coming up huge and stopping those shots set the tone for the rest of the game, and the only one that beat him was a weird one that went off the glass and off to the side. You get the saves that you're not supposed to get with Spencer Martin, and THATCHER DEMKO, aside from the game against LA, he has not given the Canucks that same security. So when it comes to right now, I mean, it's a back-to-back situation against San Jose later today. I'm not going to be watching the game, by the way. I have my own hockey game that pretty much coincides with that same time frame. We're probably going to be able to make a post-game video about just the stats and what happens in the game, though, so I'll apologize in advance for that video not being all too great, but then again, most of my videos aren't, you could argue. But when it comes to just the hot hand, when it comes to the goalie that is giving you wins, so far, that has been Spencer Martin. And I think Kelly Hrudey, of all people, going out there on the broadcast yesterday and noting his worry about Thatcher Demko, it is quite concerning because, of course, Hrudey himself is a former goalie, so he knows kind of what it's like to be on a slump and be in a hot streak and everything, but right now, if Bruce Boudreau wants to save his job, he wants to be in a position where he's giving his team the best chance to win every night, then Spencer Martin is going to have to get more starts, unfortunately. And it is unfortunate to say that, because Demko, quite frankly, has been getting outplayed. One game is all it takes, I feel, to really shift things forward in a positive direction, and he had that against LA the other day, but then the game against Vegas happened last week, and Demko completely was hung out to dry, and you could say that the goals weren't his fault. They usually aren't. But on teams like the Vancouver Canucks, where their defense is bad, you need your goalie to step up and make those above and beyond saves. Spencer Martin has been doing that. And so, heading into the next few weeks here, it's going to be kind of interesting to see where they go after extended periods of time off, after breaks where they're traveling, etc., because we're starting to see that shift a little bit, where Spencer Martin is getting those important games. Now it's a back-to-back. San Jose is the opponent. They're a weak team compared to Vegas and Colorado. Spencer Martin started those two games. Spencer Martin won. Now Thatcher Demko, assuming he gets the start here tonight, which I have no doubt he probably should, but at the same time, you know, if Bruce decides to pull a wild card and start Martin in today's game, then okay, that's going to be another layer of this whole goalie controversy here. It's like Shrek right here, man. Ogres have layers. So do goalie controversies. They also have layers. But for Demko, if they start to give Demko the easier assignments and Martin the more difficult opponents, it would sort of be shifting more in the trajectory that I feel is more appropriate when you acknowledge just how good each of these guys have been. Thatcher Demko is going to come back to form, inevitably. I think it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time as to when. But for right now, when this team is in the position it is in the standings, they're so far down after having a really rough start, and they need to claw back because this was a team that needed to be competitive. You gotta go with the resources that help you out the most, and so far, that's been Martin. So, talk to the console your thoughts about this entire goalie controversy. Is this as big a deal as Luongo Schneider was? Okay, probably not. That was a completely different situation because Luongo was a Hall of Fame caliber guy that was just an absolute beast in Vancouver for a longer amount of time that Demko had been a beast. And, I mean, Corey Schneider was drafted to being the next one, so it kind of worked out a little bit too soon. Spencer Martin was acquired by Vancouver for future considerations from Tampa Bay, I believe it was, a few years ago. So, completely different situations. Martin has been fantastic. Demko has been not. But talk to the console either way all your thoughts about this goaltender controversy and how it stacks up to the other ones. Markey, Demko, Miller, Lack. I feel like Miller, Lack is the underrated one that people don't really remember all too much, but I kind of remember this one really well too. Miller versus Lack was a pretty big deal back when it was happening, I feel. But, again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Juraj 99, and bye.